What's up, guys? Dave Swift here. Today, I'm going to be looking at Email It over on AppSumo. Now, this is part of their brand new Build Different sale. We'll talk more about that later on, but Email It is essentially like an email server that lets you send out transactional and marketing emails through regular old SMTP or API connections. Now, this is important because if you've got a WordPress website, or maybe more likely these days, you are vibe coding your own app and you need to send off emails, well, Email It could be the perfect solution that you connect up to your Cloud Code app, and then it's able to actually send off notifications when you get users signing up and you're caching all of those Stripe checks. Knock on wood. I think we're all going to have our own apps and 0 users pretty soon. All right, so here we go. This is Email It over on AppSumo. Now, they are doing a sale right now, and AppSumo is the sponsor of today's video. So we'll talk about their sale, but you should know that the price is going to increase in about 4 days as of the recording of this video. But right now, you can lock in their tier 1 for as little as $44. Now, what is the Build Different sale? Well, basically, AppSumo is celebrating 16 years in business, and so they are putting together a collection of tools that were built by founders who get how hard it is to run a business, which I believe is probably everybody who's launched on AppSumo. But you get the point here. They've put together a nice little collection of tools. A lot of these I've already reviewed, so I will link to a collection of posts with all of my reviews kind of, slammed together, because I've done First Book before, I believe. I've done one like that. I've done Agency Handy, I've done Reap, I've done FuseBase, I've done True Conversion, I've done Press Ranger. So I've hit a lot of these already, but if there's more that you want to see from this sale, definitely let me know in the description. But let's actually talk about Email It. Okay, so here is the Email It interface, just loading up here. I've got a brand new account, haven't done anything with it. I'm gonna go through, set up a domain, do some deliverability testing, and show you how you can connect it up to your vibe coded app or your WordPress site or really anything else. You can even use it as a standalone email marketing tool. They've got some pretty great features built in terms of campaigns and an HTML editor that's drag and drop. So lots of cool features to get through here. What I've been doing so far is just connecting up AWS, and I'm very comfortable with Amazon's SES service, which is hosted through AWS. And even if you're not a developer, you've probably heard of AWS before. It's the big enterprise that whenever it goes down, most of the internet doesn't work. Well, they've got a service as part of AWS called a Simple Email Service, and it is my recommended way to send transactional emails or even marketing emails. But the problem is it's very technical and it's difficult to get configured. So people are always looking for a faster, cheaper, easier solution. Well, not cheaper. SES is about as cheap as it gets, but they want a better solution for sending off transactional emails. So that's why when I saw this on AppSumo, I was really excited to give it a shot, run it through all its paces, and give you guys an honest look at what I actually think about it. So to get started first, I'm just going to focus on connecting up a domain and then configuring it with a WordPress website and actually sending some test emails and checking the deliverability, kind of the fundamental stuff. If that doesn't go well, then the tool isn't going to be of much use. So we can create a domain right here. This just takes me over to the domains section, which is under Email API domains, and then we can hit add domain. And I'm gonna live recklessly here. I'm gonna connect this right up to daveswift.com, my primary domain for my content. And now I'm gonna have to create some DNS records here. What's cool is they do actually have an API. So you could do all of this via Cloud Code. Like you could connect up Cloud Code, give it an API token, and then let it run the entire show for you. So then instead of having to do all this technical stuff, you could just be like, hey, I just have a new domain. Maybe you already have the DNS credentials for that because it's got API access to your Cloudflare. And then you say you've got credentials for Email It. Just do all this stuff for me. Everything I'm about to show you is completely automatable through AI, which is just an exciting time to be alive. So one kind of weird thing back in the UI here, one kind of weird thing is that after you add the domain, they don't pop up a nice little box to say what records you need to add. But if you click on it, it will give you that info. It'd be better if that just, showed up right away. You can send this to email if you want to receive it in email and then hand it off to your developer or something like that. But for now, I'm just going to copy all of these records and then add them in over at my DNS registrar, and we should get this domain verified momentarily. That's a fundamental part of sending emails is you got to verify it so that the sender knows that you are legitimate. So we're going to do everything necessary here. Okay, I've copied all of the DNS records over to my paste stack here. I'm using the Paste app on Mac. It'll make it really easy to enter these in. I just need to remember what type of record they are, which I can probably do. I'm going to run through what these all actually mean here really quickly. So an MX record, this is for inbound emails. Typically, you only want to have one MX record per domain because you don't, like, think about it at your house. You have one mailbox. You don't want mail being sent to, your neighbor's house and across the street, all addressed to you. You want everything to come into the one mailbox. So usually on your domain, you only have one MX record. What's different about this is it has a subdomain. So it's actually going to a different location. Like, you could think of it like you get your Amazon deliveries sent somewhere else. You have another box or something that it takes in those deliveries. Well, that's what this MX record is going to do. It's not going to impact your personal emails that get sent through, like, if you're using Outlook or Google Workspace, those will be just fine. Next up is a text record. This is actually for your SPF record. That's a form of authentication just to make sure that if you have SPF verified, that means that the domain is free to send from your domain. So in this case, we're using email its server to send using our domain. This is a safety precaution so that people can't spoof your email and make it look like you said something you didn't. Very similar, we have DKIM that also adds authentication to the individual emails, proving that they haven't been tampered with in transit so that no one actually intercepted the email and made it look like you said something that you didn't. And then finally, we have DMARC down here, which tells the receiving servers how to handle emails that fail either of the other two authentications. So if you don't have a DMARC set up, basically the receiving email is just going to be like, what do I do here? And maybe it'll just let it go in anyway, and your recipient won't know that it's a fraudulent or spoofed email. Then the other records we have down here are for tracking. Another MX record for inbound emails. This is probably for like bounce management or something. Tracking is going to be for tracking clicks. If you send off marketing emails and you want to be able to track those, you can set up this tracking email. This is going to be optional. I'm almost certain you don't have to turn this one on. The primary ones are going to be the authentication ones to prove that you have the ability to send. And then down here, we can set up a custom tracking domain if you prefer, as well as turning on tracking loads and tracking clicks, which I'm going to do. That will impact your deliverability, by the way. So if you are tracking those things, it will negatively impact your deliverability. It will be a little bit lower, especially for a brand new domain, because it is a sign of a marketing message. And the email providers generally don't want you to be sending out marketing messages. They want their email to be useful. So if you're a spammer, this is a signal that you're spamming. Doesn't mean that it's always bad and that you should always turn it off, but just keep in mind, if you're having deliverability issues, that could be one thing you turn off. You'll get less of a picture of your email setup. So, you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons. All right, so here I am inside of Cloudflare. I am going to go ahead and add in all of these DNS records. We'll just go ahead and hit add record, and I'll just do this sped up here so you don't have to sit and watch me do it. But essentially you set the type and then paste in each name and value here in the next field. And if you're doing this and you're just a little confused, you've never done it before, the type of record you need is in the green badge right here. So DKIM is not a type of record. It's going to be a text record. And most of these are text records, other than the tracking is a CNAME record. And then of course there's MX records as well. And there we go. I added in the final MX record. Let's head back over and see if we are verified. So just right up at the top here, there is a check DNS button. I'll click on that. It's going to go ahead and check the DNS, and we got a bunch of green marks here. We should be ready to go. I don't see any errors at all. Yep, all green. If yours doesn't work right away, that's okay. Just wait a couple of minutes and try it again. If you're using something other than Cloudflare, it might take a little bit longer for the DNS records to refresh. Okay, so there we go. Back on the dashboard, my domain is verified. You can see here, I've got a green check mark next to the create a campaign or API key, because I was actually playing around with the campaign tool before starting recording this video. Pretty nice feature. We'll look at that later on. And then we want to send our first email as the last part of setup. But really what I want to do is connect this up to a website and then try to send an email from there. So the most common way that you're going to send off transactional emails is via SMTP, which is just fine. That's a great time-tested way to do it. Now, in order to connect up SMTP to our newly authenticated domain, I do have to create an API key first. And in the docs here, they tell you that you're going to use smtp.emailit.com as your host. There's some port information, and then your password is actually going to be the API key itself. The username is email it. That's the important information that you generally need to know. And if you want to do something more like send via the API, you could definitely do that as well. But SMTP is going to be supported by nearly every application, and it's reliable enough. The one advantage that having a direct API connection has is that if for some reason their service is down, it can basically save that information and then retry at a later date, versus SMTP being, it has to work right then. It's sending the message and it's not really checking to see, did it go out? And then if it didn't, I'm going to resend. No, it's just going to go ahead and fire it off and assume everything works out. That's a layman's explanation, but you get the general idea here. Okay, so back in the interface here, I'll go over to API keys and we'll create a new API key, and I'll just call this test. It's going to be deleted later, so don't worry if you see anything. We do have full access, which would let us do everything in the application or everything the API supports anyways. I'm sure there's some limitations, but it did look like you could authenticate new domains via the API, so that's cool. But more than likely, you want to scope this as narrow as possible. So if you're at the stage I'm at, we want this to be sending only. That way, if someone does get your API key, they can only send off emails. They can't hack into the system, add their own domain, and then start spamming like crazy. So I'm going to do sending only here, and then I'll choose my authenticated domain, and I will get my API key. Again, don't worry that you can see this. I will be deleting it right after the recording stops. I'm going to copy it to my clipboard and hit done. Now I'm over in my real live WordPress site here. This is what I use for online courses. And I'm going to go ahead and add in another connection via the brilliant and free Fluent SMTP plugin. So if you don't have that, just go ahead and download it to your WordPress website. A lot of people still don't have good deliverability from their WordPress site. So this tool, Email It, combined with something like Fluent SMTP, could fix that in a hurry. So we'll hit add another connection here, and you can see that it's going to show us a lot of tools that we can use here, but unfortunately Email It is not one. Don't worry, just choose other SMTP. It's no big deal. Okay, so I'm inside of Fluent SMTP, setting up my SMTP credentials here. I can use any email address that I want using the verified domain. So here I'm going to use test. I could use no reply. I could use Dave. I could use Dave Swift. Anything you want, it will all work. Just keep in mind that if you're sending emails from that, make it perfectly clear if people can respond to you. That's an important thing because they might hit the reply button. So if it's a no reply address, just, no reply. In fact, that's not a bad idea here. I'll just set it to be no reply. And then we're going to need our SMTP host as well as our username. And of course, I've already got the API key copied to my clipboard, so I'm not going to copy anything else at the moment. So we'll do port 587 and TLS. You can probably just leave all of this checked. If it's a problem, I'll come back and turn it off. Okay, and then I entered in the username, Email It, as well as paste in my password. And let's go ahead and hit save connection. It's going to validate that the connection actually works. No, I do not want to save this password, and settings are saved successfully. Now let's send off a test email. This time I'll just send it to myself. I'll do it from no reply. Now with Fluent SMTP, you can have multiple connections. So I know that any email I send from no reply is going to go from the Email It connection. If I had used the other address, that would go through Amazon SES. You can see over here in my settings, I have both of them connected up, but the from email will go through the Email It sending platform. And the good news is we had instant inbox here, no issues delivering this, worked perfectly. I can verify here just by looking at the headers where it was actually sent from. So I'm gonna view all headers. What platform sent this email? Let's ask Claude here. I'll paste in the entire headers and it should go ahead and just tell us, where it came from. There we see the Email It, just to confirm, that I'm not pulling anything here and it's sending through SES, but yeah, we are good. Now I could have asked Claude about the deliverability here, but instead of that, I'm gonna go ahead and send another message, this time out to be an outside domain. So less chance that it will just go right into my inbox. We'll just use the good old fashioned email-tester. Yes, there are other tools that are paid that do a great job here, but this is the one I always come back to because I remember the domain name and it gives me enough information that I'm happy. So we're gonna go back under test email and under from, I'm gonna choose no reply again. This time we'll go to the mail-tester address and I am sending HTML here. We'll send the message back over on mail-tester. We will check our score. And 10 out of 10, not too shabby. There's a yellow check mark here. It says your message can be improved. It's just because it's short, I'm sure. It doesn't have an unsubscribe header. That's because it's not a marketing email. All right, lovely, 10 out of 10 deliverability working perfectly. Now, if you try this out and you have poor deliverability, that could be a couple of things. One, your domain may have been used for spam in the past, and domains themselves have reputations. Additionally, the contents of your email impacts the deliverability. So if you're using spammy words and then you send off messages to places like Outlook, you are going to hit the spam box 100% of the time. Outlook particularly really sensitive to the contents of your email, not just even like the links, where you are linking to in the email. It could be a YouTube link that I've had flagged as spammy if you use the shortened version. So I always use the full unshortened version of your links when you send off your emails for the best deliverability. But so far, I'm pretty impressed here. Let's head back to the platform and see some of the other features. Okay, so under quick actions, we have 4 different options. We have create a campaign, and that would be like a broadcast email that's gonna go out. The one thing I do not see on this platform is any form of marketing automation, but this would be a great tool to connect up to something like a self-hosted version of N8N, so that N8N is sending the email automation off, and there you'll have all of the automation options in the entire universe, and then use Email It as the sending platform. Tons of options there. Next, we can add contacts. So if you are using this for email broadcasts, you can add in your contacts right here. The audience is a collection of contacts. So if you know that for daveswift.com, I've got a particular email list I want to send to, well, that would be under audience. And then finally, there's kind of another tool here that you usually have to pay more for. This is where I want to start off. This is email verification. This is great. I'm going to see if I can dig up an email list here. All right, so the one thing about doing marketing on the internet for like over a decade at this point, I've just got random CSVs on my computer that are full of email addresses. I don't even know where this is from. So I'm gonna try to mask all of the emails. It's like 4 years old at this point. So hopefully it's okay to go ahead and paste this in. But basically I could do one by one here. I could type in an email address, or I should be able to upload this. Please tell me I can upload it. Yes, we have email verification list. So there's 2 different options: regular email verification and email verification list. So that's what I'm gonna do. First, we'll try the other one as well. We can enter them in manually here. So if you want to do multiple, this would be the tool, or you can upload a file. Now notice it says temporary limit. During our launch period, each verification is limited to 10,000 emails. This limit will be increased soon. So I think that's pretty reasonable. They are just launching on AppSumo, probably getting slammed with traffic right now. Email verification can be pretty expensive on its own. So we'll see how well this does. All right, here's my list. I'm going to drop it in, hit open, and then hit create. And now it is going through and verifying it. I didn't even see how many email addresses are in here, so I'm sure we're well within the 10,000 limits, but we'll find out momentarily. All right, so while this is verifying, I'm gonna go try the regular old email verification option. Oh, look at that. It's actually got some status options for us. I'll have to mask those out for sure. Let's go ahead and verify an individual email address here. I'm gonna use noah@appsumo.com. And no, I've never actually talked to or contacted Noah, especially not via email. Actually, he did message me once on X, but other than that, I have not. So he's pending. Everyone else is going through confirmed at this point, and you can see they're getting a score. So I'll have to investigate what that looks like. So I clicked into Noah's name here so you can see what each individual contact looks like. And he is authenticated 100 out of 100. You can see his MX records. He's using appsumo.com. They are on Google Workspace, it looks like. And then we've got all of the options here. So deliverable, yes. Disposable, no. Free email, no. Catch-all, no. Yeah, this is basically what you'd see on any other email verification platform. Heading back over to my list, it looks like 1,636 emails have been verified and they all were successful. I mean, the only thing here is this list might actually be an export of verified emails that I'd already exported. So I don't know, I'll try another one. All right, I've got another list here called inactive leads. It's from 2015, so I think we should be good here. We're gonna go to emails. Actually, we're gonna go to lists again here and then verify these. Call this test 2, drop it in, create, and now we wait. Once again, it is 100% successful. It definitely raises some suspicions. All right, I'm over on ClearOut, another old school AppSumo deal. This is one of the most used or most appreciated deals that I have bought on AppSumo. I don't think they'll never do another LTD, but I still have some credits over here. So let's go ahead and add in a list. In fact, I'll do that same one I just did to compare the results essentially. So inactive leads, dropping it in, had 264 that were all approved. Let's go ahead and see what ClearOut thinks. All right, so it's got the list, 264, we will verify. We're in the queue here, and now it's verifying. It looks like 208 of them are free accounts, and that makes sense because This was 10 years ago, and I'm pretty sure this is from my music lesson business. So they were all kind of, Gmail addresses and things like that. All right, so the results are in here, and they're quite a bit different than what the other verification tool said. So 264, only 257 of them are going to be billable, meaning they'll take my credits, and 123 are guaranteed deliverables. So what that means is some of these are invalid, some of them are catch-all email addresses, some of them are role-based accounts. Actually, none of them are here, but there's only 176 that are actually valid. And from that, a big chunk of them are not going to be deliverable, or they can't guarantee that they're deliverable. So yeah, ClearOut definitely wins here in the email verification, although I'm still very impressed with Email It for the sending portion. I'm gonna break this thing so I can actually show me an invalid email address. This one can't be real. All right, finally invalid. Still got a 50 out of 100 score though. So, I mean, if you own this domain name, how did you not create that email address? But yeah, so email verification, not the coolest part of the tool. Okay, all that's really left to do is to talk about how you would use this if you wanted to use it for your email broadcasts. How does that work? Well, you'd start off by adding some contacts. So let me do that here. I could either import via CSV or just add them in manually. And since I've got that CSV, I might as well just do it that way. Now, when you import the leads, it's going to go to an audience. Remember, that's like an email list. Now, you have a general list already created, but there's no option to create a list when you're doing your import. So I'm actually going to back out of this, and we'll head over to the audiences section, and I'll create a new list over here. Which is weird because I'm an audience and it says add subscribers. Oh, I see. I'm actually in the general audience down here. If I hit this, I can create a new audience. Just kind of a minor brain glitch there in terms of their UI. I would rethink that personally. Have a button to add a new audience, since there's a button in every right-hand corner to do a new thing. Or if you do, just remove it from here so you don't think it's going to do something it doesn't. All right, I digress. We're going to call this one test and hit create. And so now I could switch between my different email lists up here at the top. That's totally great. No problem with that. So let's go back over to our contacts and do an import. We'll grab our inactive leads, assign it to our test audience, and hit create. All right, so the contact import has been queued and will be processed shortly, although it appears to already be done. Okay, so step 1, create your audience. Step 2, import your contacts, and you could have done this manually. You can hit add contact and just type it all out. And then step 3 will be to create your campaign to actually send things out. There is a template function, so that if you want to set up a template for your emails, it's confusing here because it looks like there's no templates, like there's nothing to choose from here. There's this drag it editor that has a ton of templates. So if you get everything set up the way you want it inside of the templates, you'll be able to grab that and use it in a repeating basis for your campaigns. I'm not going to get into that right now, but let's just go ahead and build out a campaign. As you can see here, I was already playing with this. So we'll hit add campaign, and I'll just call this demo. And now I've got a nice little step through the process of actually creating the email. So I'll choose my audience here. It's going to be the test audience. You can send to multiple audiences if you would like. So you can combine audiences if you're sorting it by conversions and things like that. I'm gonna turn off my general, even though it's empty. And there's an exclude option as well. So if you want to send to everybody and just exclude certain people, do that. All right, well, let's save and continue. And then we've got our strategy. Is this a normal email or an A/B test? Well, A/B tests are coming soon. That sounds like a great feature, but it doesn't exist right now. So we will stick with normal. And then we've got our sender and subject. So let's fill this out. All right, there we go. Once again, you're going to want to use the domain that you have verified, or any of the domains that you have verified. We'll talk more about that at the end when we go into the AppSumo deals to show you the domains and everything that you get for each plan. I'm good to go here with all of my settings. They look nice. Let's save and proceed onto the content. So here is probably my favorite part. We can do things with HTML if we want. We can use rich text, or they've got this very nice drag it editor. This must be like an open source, or it has a very similar type of interface that I've seen before. So I'm gonna use the drag it editor. It might be a commercial product that they have to license or something like that. And we've got a bunch of templates we can choose from, and they all look, halfway decent. So let's choose, we can load more. Let's keep going. These are all very holiday and festive. All email marketers think that we are always sending holiday emails, but so rarely are we. It's only a few times a year. Okay, they're the most important times. I get that, but sometimes you just want like a regular old template. All right, here we go. Nice little thanks for joining us. We can preview these, see what they look like. Okay, that's perfect. That's just fine. If I were to use this regularly, I'd just design my own templates and then, go from there. Now this actually popped open its own tab in another window. I was looking for a close button. It doesn't exist. So I can head back over and I'll just choose this one to build out my email. And here I am inside the editor. I can go ahead and just edit any of this content. Very nice, fast inline editing. You rule. This is cool. Let's go to school. Yeah, you get the point. So yeah, otherwise it's just like any other drag and drop builder that you've probably seen before. We can go over here. We can add in our blocks. If you want to add in images or buttons, just click them into existence, drop them where you want them to go. We have layouts. So if you want to add in columns, that's easy to do. What's this down at the bottom here? We've got some little sections we can drop in. Very cool. Didn't quite land where I wanted. Let's see if we can move that. Little handles over here so I can move it around the page. Yeah, I mean, it's a little jittery and I can't put it exactly where I want. And it's probably because this is all one section here. So in order to move this, I have to like select it, but you can't. So it's email. Email editing is extremely painful just because of how the standards were developed. I would give this builder itself, like, I don't know, a 6.5 out of 10. It's completely fine. And once you get it set up for your templates, you don't really ever touch it anyway. And if you're more persnickety, just use HTML and code it by hand. There are global settings in the upper right-hand corner here, so you can change things like the background color if you want. Just leave that at white. It drives everyone crazy when we get an email that has a different background color. And then I'm gonna guess this is to send it. Let's click that. What just happened? All right, enter my email address. I'm not gonna send this because remember, I've got a random list attached to it. So we'll close out of this and then we can see what it looks like in mobile versus desktop. Very nice. And we save and continue to the tracking section. Now, remember when I set up my domain, I turned on tracking. Well, you can override that on an email by email basis. So if I don't want to do tracking for this, I can turn it off. All right. And our last step is to actually send the email. You can see there's a nice little checklist here of everything that you've done. One thing that is missing is the unsubscribe link. So it's nice they call that out because you will be dinged for it in your deliverability. And I think it's illegal to send off a mass email without that. So definitely add that in. You can easily do that inside of the content. But once again, we can preview and test here. So I'll just send off another email to email-tester and give that a go. Grab our email address, enter in the test email. We've got the test message down here showing that it's actually being sent. And then over on email-tester, I will check my score. And once again, we are at 10 out of 10, no problemo. Now, like I said, I'm not actually going to send this email. So I'm gonna go back out to my campaigns and just trash this one. I don't want any accidents happening later on. But that's essentially the entire platform here. We do have some metrics so you can check your deliverability. It looks like it tracks delivered, bounced, failed, rejected, suppressed, complained, loaded, and clicked right here. We can see the events, the actual tests and everything that's happened, clicks and all that good stuff. We already talked about the API keys. There are webhooks that are available as well. And then suppressions. These will be basically email addresses that have come back as bounced, right? So if let's say, I was emailing Noah and he's like, Dave, that's enough. I could just say, spell his name right. And then we just say, bounced or complained, whatever. And then I will no longer be able to send to that email address, even if they sign up. Now, hopefully there is a hook that basically does that part automatically for you. Let me investigate. Yes, here in the docs, we've got everything we need to set up automatic bounce management and suppression lists, basically, so that if you're annoying someone, you don't continue to send them messages. It would require basically one additional piece of software. Something like N8N would be a great solution here that could basically be an endpoint for the webhook, and then it will just update your email it interface. But yeah, should be no problem to do that. I mean, it is a gap because that's really something they could provide for us. It's a little bit of a pain to have to use something like N8N to handle the bounce and complaint management, but really not the end of the world. And honestly, it'd be a good first project for you if you're not already using N8N to set that up, because it's part of the future and you probably should get used to dealing with these slightly more technical things if you've kind of done the whole plug your ears, plug your nose. I don't know, if you've been trying to hide away from tech and do everything with graphical builders, the AI is really just going to push us through that and assist us, but also force us to do more technical things. All right, let's talk about the plans and pricing here. So domains, we can get 1, 2, or unlimited domains. For me, that's a pretty easy, answer to a question that I asked myself to give. I would definitely go with unlimited. So then the question is, do I want unlimited for $169 or unlimited for $319? Well, the difference here is how many emails are you going to send? 100,000 or 250,000? So that's per month. It's quite a bit more. One-time cost, it's up in the air. How much are you actually sending? Are you providing services to clients and you want to have some buffer room? 250,000 is a tremendous amount of emails. Very few people have an email list over 20 or 30,000. I found from working on kind of small to medium-sized businesses, that's pretty regular size list. Above that, and you're kind of getting into another stratosphere where you might not want to rely on a tool such as this. Because remember, if you have a list of 100,000 people and you send them 2 emails a month, you've already, depleted that entire cache. No one has that that's probably watching this video. If you are, well, then sign up for SES. That's going to be the best option and just bite the bullet on learning the technical stuff. But other than that, everything else is included at every tier, which is really nice and refreshing. We do have this data retention option down here, which is going to keep your logs for longer. You can sign up for this if you want. It's $150 extra at any tier. Personally, I don't really need that, but you might be in an industry where data retention is required. And then you definitely would want to check into it. But yeah, other than that, the standard retention is just fine for me. Well, I'm thinking of it. There are a few other things I want to mention on the dashboard here. One, their data retention, I think, is generally just like a few days. So if you do need longer, that's where that add-on would come into play. But the sending limits and then dedicated IPs, because I know those are two things that are important to people. So sending limits, when you sign up for your account, they're going to be low. Not super low, like you can send 2 emails a second, 5,000 emails per day, and your audience, per audience, like your email list, can be up to 10,000 subscribers. That means that when you send out a blast, it's going to go out to 10,000 people maximum. Now, these are starting limits. You can request an increase right here. Why do companies do this? Because they don't want someone signing up for an account and then blasting all 250,000 emails in one go and then getting out of there because they're a scammer, right? Or they're a spammer. So that's why they set these limits up. And after you've shown that you are reputable, either by talking to them personally and verifying your email address and showing that you're an actual public figure, or more than likely just by using the account reasonably and then building up good reputation over time, then you just go in here and you can request increased limits. So that's nothing to get too worked up about. I did see some comments in the Facebook, not the Facebook, but the AppSumo questions where people were complaining that the sending limits were too low. Well, you just got to develop a reputation and then they will increase them. As far as dedicated IPs, this is a very common misconception about sending emails, that you need your own dedicated IP or you'll have terrible deliverability. And in fact, for most people with a small to medium sized list, a dedicated IP is going to hinder your deliverability, not improve it. You really need to send anywhere between 50 and 100,000 emails per month, not 50 emails, 50,000 emails to 100,000 emails per month to even really warrant a dedicated IP. So if you're not doing that, if your email list is still in the 3, 4, 5, 6,000, no problem with that, but you are better off in a shared pool then, assuming that EmailIt does a good job of keeping things clean. And all of the signals they're giving me is that they will do that. I'm going to switch over to this for a lot of services. I think this is a great option, and I'll see how it goes. I mean, if deliverability tanks, I'll just switch away. That's one of the beautiful things about these types of lifetime deals is it's not very difficult to plug and play. It's not going to bring down your entire infrastructure because this will work until you plug in the other one, and then that one works and you're good to go. So, and it's a good experience getting some of those reps in so that you understand how all of this tech connects together. Yeah, so overall, I'm very impressed with this tool. Like I said, I'm literally going to deploy this to production after this video. I'll start using it on daveswift.com for my transactional emails. Like when you log into my website, that will go through EmailIt, and we'll see how that goes for a month or two. If there's any problems, I'll just swap it out. But if you have any questions about this, email deliverability, anything else, definitely hit me up down below in the comments. I'll try to help out everybody that I can. You can also sign up for my free email list over at daveswift.com, and I also have a premium section if you want to support my content. I give a little extra to everybody who subscribes over there. It's just a few dollars per month, and I really appreciate everybody who has already signed up. I know what everybody's waiting for. You want that final score. I'm going to give EmailIt an 8.1 out of 10. Thanks to AppSumo again for sponsoring this video. To grab a copy of EmailIt, use my link in the description, please. It helps let the AppSumo folks know that you watched this video and it informed your decision. Also gives me a little bit of a kickback as well. That's going to do it for this video. My name is Dave Swift. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.